שמע שיר חדש
Welcome to Rosh Chodesh Elul 5785, a momentous month indeed. And we will begin to explore today the special, unique quality of this doubly significant day. Number one, that it's Rosh Chodesh. And number two, that it's Rosh Chodesh Elul. And we're going to describe what the Torah, both in Chitzonius and Pnimius, what in Nigla and Nistar, we as Jews are being told is our task at this time, and also in the context of this very, very, very unique time period that we're in. So let's begin. What is the significance of Rosh Chodesh Elul, of Elul per se? So on this, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Gansfried, points out as follows: Mirosh Chodesh Elul v'ad Yom Kippurim hem yimei ratzon. It's a 40-day period beginning today, which will culminate in Yom Kippur, 30 days of Elul, plus the 10 Aseres Yemei Tshuva, and that is a 40-day unit, and they are called Yemei Ratzon. What does that mean? They're called Yemei Ratzon. So in the Darkei Tshuva, on your day at Kuf Ayin Tes, Sifkat and Yud Ches, it says that the Bnei Yisachar, the illustrious nephew of the great holy Rabbi Elimelech Milizensk, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh L'Bracha, he had a custom that they would make weddings all month of Elul. In other words, if we have some restrictions that, according to Shulchan Aruch, again, it's something that's tied to the mysterious association between Klal Yisrael and the moon, which is the symbol of Rosh Chodesh. The tiny appearance of the fragment of the moon signals Rosh Chodesh. That's what the mitzvah is from the Torah. The very first mitzvah given to Klal Yisrael as a unit, not to mankind per se, was Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chadashim. There's a unique connection between this mitzvah and the entire purpose of Klal Yisrael, Rosh Chodesh. What is that? What is that mitzvah? To ask Eidim, to ask individuals to step forward to identify that a portion of the moon has been seen, and they will bear witness to the beginnings of that, and that is known as Kiddush HaChodesh or Edus HaChodesh, which the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah goes into detail. The Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah goes into detail. So you see that there's a duality here. In other words, Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh. So there's two elements. There's a Rosh Chodesh element contained inside Rosh Hashanah, and in fact, there's a Rosh Chodesh element contained within all of the Shalosh Regalim, because HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. This is particularly enunciated in the Mishnayos in Maseches Shavuos, which speak about a very interesting thing. There is another mitzvah unique to the Jewish people, which is to build a Beis HaMikdash. Basuli Mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. All right? There's a Rosh Chodesh connection to that particular mitzvah. What is it? The Jewish people, when they were given the Mishkan, were allowed to contain within our living space actually the presence of Hashem, the sanctity of Hashem and His Kedusha, which was highly, how shall I say, dangerous, because the Kohanim had to guard the Mishkan, particularly the Aron Kodesh. If even one person so much as would touch or look even at the Aron Kodesh and its glory, the divine presence emanating from the Luchos, right? Then their line between mortality and immortality would cease. Their neshama would literally fly out from their body, okay? Which is similar to what happened to Dasan and not to Dasan and Aviram, to Nadav and Avihu, who by trying to draw close and bring Ketores, they literally were burnt. Their souls were nisrafu and were drawn up to the Kodesh. It's dangerous to be too close to Hashem. As my Bubby would say, Alei Shalom, Medaf nit krichen arein in Himmel. We don't have to go crawling into the sky. There has to be a human boundary between the human and the divine. But Rosh Chodesh is a particularly important point in order to maintain us from contaminating the holy and causing damage to both ourselves, to both realms, to that world and to this world. So the mitzvah is Tumas Mikdash B'Kodeshav. We are not allowed, as regular Jews, to enter the space of the Heichal, of the place within the Beis HaMikdash, or the Ohel Moed, the actual tent in covering, which has inside the menorah, the candelabra, and the giant kavaram that was lit by the Kohanim, the Mizbeach HaKatores, which is the incense altar, the golden altar, and the Lechem HaPanim, the showbreads, and inside the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, and the staves of the Aron Kodesh, which burst forth from the curtains of the Kodesh Kodashim. Those were the literal life force giving that Hashem would give to Klal Yisrael constantly. The showbreads represent our parnasa, our physical well-being. The menorah represents our chachma, our mental and intuitive and prophetic knowledge. And the Mizbeach HaKatores represented our soul, the part of us that's only nishima, otherwise known as nishama. So if you want to look at it this way, the shulchan with the showbreads represented our sacred bodies. Then you have the mind, and then, or the eyes, the mind, which illuminates chachma. And then you have a deeper level, which is the level of neshima, the internal organs, and the koach haneshima, which represents our nefesh, which represents our immortal souls that's connected to our bodies. That area is the point of contact between the divine and the human, and you are not allowed to desecrate it with human mortality. That's why the Kohanim actually, and the Levium to a lesser extent, are the bridge between us and the divine. That's what happened at Matan Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to go all the way up, and he was the first Kohen Gadol. And then the Kohanim and the Levium onto a next level, and then Klal Yisrael cordoned off on the bottom, the animals even behind them. And there is a danger that we bring our imperfection to bear on the perfect and immortal. And if there's not an interface, when those two things can work, what are we? We are an interface between the divine and the ultra-physical. That's what a human being is. We have a chelik el kalimal. We have this inner Kodesh Kodashim, and yet we have physical manifestations, even to such a point that we have mosaros, that we have excess, that we expel from our bodies, from our various orifices. And it's mind-boggling that such a thing could coexist. That's the will of Hashem. But Rosh Chodesh is a particular time to renew, although it happens every day. But after a 30-day cycle, it's a complete cycle of renewal. That's the symbol of the moon regenerating itself. And that's the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael. Kedusha of Klal Yisrael waxes, wanes, and renews. It's a symbol that we are an eternal nation and nothing can destroy us. So therefore, we are immortal. We are above mortality, but we've got to be careful not to introduce tumas mes into these holy quarters. We have to maintain holiness. We have to maintain boundaries. You know, this past Shabbos, for example, we read the laws of kashrus, right? You'll know that when it comes to the more base animals, I'm not talking about birds, and I'm not talking about grasshoppers, which have different rules, and some of them are kosher. The ones that have wings, there's kosher things with wings and a lot of non-kosher ones, but they have a kind of a lower standard. They don't require such obvious signage. With a grasshopper, for example, if the wings cover the body, those are kosher grasshoppers. It's almost like a tzniut of sorts, similar to the angels that on high accompany Hashem's Aron Kodesh. They cover themselves with their wings. There's a certain, how shall I say, tzniut about them. In the animal world itself, birds, the ones that are so connected to, as my bubby would say, kriching around in Himmel, literally, they can go to the sky. It depends whether they're agents, whether they themselves are agents of killing other birds. If they kill other birds, then they're not kosher. If they somehow just maintain themselves, and you're like the doves and the turtle doves, which have fidelity. They are loyal to their mates. They are, in essence, a more pure sort of bird. They don't kill other birds. But they're the ones that are the victims of the birds who render other birds tarif. You see that within the animal kingdom and even with the insect kingdom, there are holier sort of animals. Listen to this. So similarly, shockingly, if you think about it, what's the symbol of a kosher animal? What's in a symbol of something that represents the goal of Rosh Chodesh, which is to make sure that the holy and the immortal are not defiled, but are renewed, refreshed, and kept away from things that are mortal, which is what? The Satan, the Yetzer Hara, the Malach HaMaves, Chet, Averos, sins, Taivos, the Nachash, Kina, Kavod, V'Taiva, all the things that render us mortal and which human beings generally, unfortunately, display to the nth degree. You don't have to even look that far. War, oppression, greed, theft, slander, accusation, unbased hatred, a selfishness, a addiction. What is our world all about? Escapism. That is the problem. How do we take that world, the world which has a more of a connection to the mortal than the immortal, and make it something divine? Well, we have to be poresh. We have to have separation from things that render us our more base selves. We have to separate from theft. We have to separate from murder. Everything that's in the Aseret Dibros. We have to separate ourselves from those normal, bestial, human, animal desires, which every human is going to do unless they have a higher reason not to. It's the normal. It's what's normal. Okay? So, but we came to the world as a standard above to show that, yes, it can be done. Even within man who desires, the last mission of Mako says, interesting thing, that man is, Klais was commanded not to drink dam. Ki adam hu nefesh, don't drink dam. So the Mishnah comments there and says, Ma adam, shenafsha om ketzemeno. Nobody likes blood. Who likes blood? Right? But it's an acquired taste, right? Normally a person is not desirous of drinking blood. The Torah prohibits us to teach us that if you withhold yourself from things that are logically detestable, okay, then how much more, and you're rewarded, how much more so will you be rewarded if you withdraw yourself from things that you are interested in, that every human being desires and holds precious. Gezel v'arayos, stealing whatever monetary things that they need to render them power and strength and opportunity and greed, and then taiva, to fulfill one's desires in whichever way they want. These things are normal for the human being. Nafsho shel adam mis'avalehem umachmadason, says the last Mishnah in Makos. And if you withhold yourself for that, says the Mishnah, last final Mishnah in Makos, alachas kama v'kama shetin sheyiske lo l'dorosa bad sof kol hadoros. It's not just you're doing it for you. You've touched immortality by doing that, and your generations ahead of you are going to have schus. That is the imperative of the whole Jewish people. Schus avos. Why do we have schus avos? Because since our avos made those immortal choices and rendered us close to that pattern of behavior, it's intrinsic. Klal Yisrael are supposed to be examples of machmadim, of tzniut, right? There are rachmanim, baishanim, gomle chasadim. We are among the human people more tzanua. Supposedly, we are among them more people. That's our essence. If it doesn't happen, it's because of a corruption. But our essence is to be more tzanua. Our essence is to be rachmanim, to have mercy. Although it could be misguided mercy, like having mercy on the cruel, such as there's so much mercy on murderers, the illegal truck drivers who come in and murder people in the United States. And then there's a misguided Rahmanis saying, oh, that poor driver had an accident. Oh, yes, he was an incompetent truck driver that murdered on the road. No, we have to have mercy on him. Why are we having mercy on a criminal who not only endangered other people's lives? This is really what's going on in America. An illegal alien mowed down 3 people because he didn't know how to drive the truck. How did he get a driver's license? If you go out with a driver's license, you're a murderer. Why would you have mercy on a murderer? Is that logical? No, because we have to be mercy. It's misguided mercy. I have to have mercy on poor Hamas. Poor children are murdered because their parents put them in the line of fire and used them as human shields. No, but you have to have mercy on them. That's misguided mercy. That's not Rahmanus. That's illness. And then Gomlei Chasadim. And that we really want to help. And when the world, in its cacophony of Rash, wishes to destroy the reputation and how shall I say, the very essence of the goodness of the Jewish people by calling us genocidal maniacs, what are they really doing? They're really saying that there is no such thing as goodness. There is no such thing as the Jewish people. Ish kol yosher ben Avyaseh, do anything you want. And in fact, I recently saw an article that says that people in America, they're starting to realize that people are doing heinous acts of mass murder for no particular reason. Just because. That we've unleashed within the concept of human behavior, do whatever you want. Whatever you want is good. You want to come to America and steal a driver's license and become a truck driver and run people over? Gesundheit. That's fine. If you want to defend yourself against the world's most evil terrorists, yeah, that's not something that's moral. They want to destroy the very essence of the message of Hashem, that Klal Yisrael is here to the world to show them how to do better. And if you want to point them as evil, there is no one else to point out to you, to explain to Mr. Putin why he can't have the entire world. Someone explained recently that, so Trump wants to make peace with Putin. Right. Okay, fine. Let me ask you a question. What does Putin want? Does he want a few more kilometers of the Donbass? What does he really want? You want to draw a line before the mountains of the Donbass region so that he can't go and take Kiev in his sleep? Is that going to make him happy? So somebody says, people don't understand what he wants. This is a man who also had Jewish, was thank God, subject to Jewish kindness. Did you know that as a street boy, he was raised when his parents were both drug addicts and criminals, and he was taken in by a Jewish family that was religious. The father used to learn Gemara, and he grew up in their house because they fed him nebach, because he didn't have parents to feed him. And to this day, he has great respect for Torah, but that's not going to stop him. It may stop him from destroying Israel, which we hope is not his design, although he's done everything to help others do it. But he wants the entire Russian Empire, any place where a Russian boot has ever ruled. And as somebody pointed out, that included what? East Berlin. Where was Mr. Putin raised under the East German? He was part of the East German government. He wants Germany. He grew up with Germany. He grew up with Berlin. He says if Berlin was half Russian and everything else, including Hungary, including Poland, including Crimea, including Ukraine, you think he wants a little piece on the corner of Ukraine, of Eastern Ukraine? No. He wants everything, because to him, the idea of the imperial Russia, I can take what I want. That's my taiva. I don't care if people die. I don't care if people are trampled under. It makes no difference to me. Lie, cheat, rob, kill millions of people. It doesn't really matter. I want what I want. Nafshel shel adam machmadasan umisavalahem. That's what he wants. He wants all the way to Germany and beyond. All right, might have to stop at East Germany. People don't understand. They don't understand the depth of what a human being is, what they want, and what their desires are. It's not simple. Okay? So therefore, the Am Yisrael was created to show what the potential of mankind is, and our ability to connect with the immortal divine, which requires a tzimtzum, a backing away, which is what our avos did. They were Yesharim. They showed us how to navigate the straits of our desires, be willing to die al Kiddush Hashem, to be willing to mock of your own son because of Hashem's will, to show that your midah of chesed is not dependent on your logic, but based on the desire to serve Hashem, Avram Avinu, to protect the evil by prayers and believe in their reformation, like Sodom, to save people and try to bring them closer to Hashem. That is our job in this world. Our job is not to make a lot of money and to buy houses for all of our children with swimming pools so we can all live together in a suburb of Lakewood or Ramat Beit Shemesh. That's not the point. We have a much more grand mission to the world. And if the world says to us, you're evil, you don't have this mission, they're denying, and we're denying the reality, both of us. So it occurred to me, if you know, the signs of the kosher animals, which Jews are allowed to eat, and by the way, it's in the Daf Yomi. It's funny, we're learning the laws of kashrut. We're learning the laws of, what if a mouse falls into beer? Today's Daf Yomi. Mice is what's used to describe the Christian world, that they call themselves holy and they eat Schwartz. That's what the Navi called them. They eat mice and things, and you know, and yet they want to say we're holy. But holiness requires a boundary, requires places that you cannot enter as you are with everything that you wish and desire. You got to put some things down, right? So, kosher animals. Everybody make the sign of a kosher animal's feet. Go ahead. Is that not the sign of a kosher animal? What else is it the sign of?
Birkas Kohanim.
Yes. And don't say just Star Trek, but Mr. Spock, who was teaching lessons. Star Trek was one of the most amazing shows. It was created by a Jew, Gene Roddenberry, to teach principles to the world. That's what the whole show was about. It was the battle between the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, between passions and pure logic. It was a brilliant, brilliant show, which was the showing of what the human condition in its more elevated form has to deal with. Choices of good and evil and all that stuff. Very Jewish topics. Kosher animals are Kohanim. Kosher animals are holy animals. They are priestly animals. Think about it. Which animals are brought onto the Mizbeach? Kosher ones. The ones with split hooves. The cows and the bulls and the goats and the rams and the sheep. These are holy animals, right? Like they say, go like sheep. Help. They go like sheep to the slaughter. Sheep are not looking to be wolves and rip other animals apart. Do you ever see a sheep? I think lahavdil, a million havdalos. They made fun of I don't know which one is animals that are very meek. Even rabbits are half kosher. That somebody said to me, well, what about the half kosher animals? Yeah, they're also, I don't like to use the word levium, but they're on the path towards holiness. Yeah, the rabbits and the camels, and more importantly, the pigs. Pigs have a split hoof. What do they represent? Well, who is associated with the pig? Who in the world is associated with the pig? Esav, our half-brother, brother Esau, who was known as Edom, or Christianity. They believe in the Torah. They have these concepts. They believe in Har Sinai, and the more that they believe, the more that they're supposed to love the Jewish people, although, who knows? It seemed to come out the opposite. But there's a Gemara that says in the end of days, pigs will be kosher, because they're already halfway there. Camels are also represent the Muslims who ride camels. Who else rides camels? The Muslims of the desert. They have chewing the cud is a kosher sign. What does that mean? A kosher sign. A kosher sign means I'm satiated. A camel doesn't complain. It can go such long distances without drinking a drop of water, without eating any food. And it'll take you, Avram Avinu rode camels. He didn't ride horses. Horses are treif. Horses are sus paro. Their midos are very, very not kosher. Paro is the ultimate in gaiva, ultimate in lust and taiva. That's the symbol of the sus. I'm nothing against horses per se. In the end, horses will be holy too. They're going to say Kodesh Lashem, the Navi says. In the end of days, we'll put Kodesh Lashem on them, and even the horses will be holy. Because everybody's going to be holy. All mankind will be holy. But did you ever hear this pshat before? Kosher animals are Kohanim. They're showing the world what it means to be not vicious, not territorial and violent animals. You go into a sheep herd, they're not going to tear you to pieces. If you walk into a hippopotamus's pond, they'll eat you alive. In a half a second, they'll snap you in two. You wander into a lake with an alligator, you're finished. If you go into a lion's pride and you haven't, by the way, there's something about this which is also very important, which is, if you'll look in the Mishnah in Bava Kama, it says that animals that are raised, and it's just like in the very beginning of Bava Kama, Chamisha Tamech Mish Muadim. What's a muad? A zev, a dov, a riv, a bardalas, vanachash, right? A wolf, a bear, which is an incredibly dangerous creature, a lion, bardalas, which is a hyena. Yeah, terribly vicious, dangerous animals, right? Most life-threatening. Nachash. It says in the Mishnah, Eliezer says, Imhem b'nei tarbus eina muadim. If they've been raised with love and affection, they are not vicious animals. And if they do damage, you consider them a tam, like a kosher animal, which is a din of a tam. Or the first time it damages, we say, oh, it didn't mean it. It's only half payment. It's so unusual. What do you want from the owner? Didn't expect this lovely little animal to do damage. Didn't expect the shore to go crazy and start goring people. That's going crazy. Because even the wildest beasts, if they're raised in an atmosphere of love and kindness, they will not eat their owners, except for certain ones, like the snakes, which are never reformable. It's machlokas in the Mishnah whether snakes are considered muad, or there could be such a thing as a tom snake. Although I have seen this. I have seen this because I like researching nature things, and they show that people raise these lizards and even snakes, and of course the Navi says at the end of the days that the snakes will lie with the children. I saw such a picture. I saw a child holding a python, petting it, and the python had no interest in killing the child. What's this all about? Because it is possible to take even the most wild creature, and through love, the animal will respond and not look to kill its master, but to give it love and support. It's possible. That's the whole hope of mankind. That's the hope of the animal kingdom too. And Rosh Chodesh is the key. Because if we can't keep renewing ourselves to the level of holy priesthood, a priest is not allowed to contaminate the Mishkan. What's the purpose of Rosh Chodesh and all the regalim, says the Mishnah in Shavuos, is lechaper al tumat mikdash v'kadashav. Inevitably, human beings fail. Inevitably, human beings are a little bit tameh. We come in contact with death. We come in contact with things that are unholy. We come in contact with dead mice, which, according to the Daf Yomi, are a special level of tuma that the Torah may have specified as even worse than other things. And you know what? Too much sheretz. It's halach in the Torah. Too much sheretz. It's a certain level of tuma. A piece of a sheretz is tameh. A piece of a kosher animal that died is tameh. All right. In any case, point is, you can't bring that into the Beis HaMikdash. We have to cleanse it of these mortal sins. And what do? We bring karbanos on Rosh Chodesh. And Hashem says, Heviu alai kapara. Give me a healing. Give me a korban so we can start over again. I know that I demand from you tremendous things. I know I demand from you a level that you should become angelic. Even the creatures, I expect them to behave angelic. Mary had a little lamb. You're so sweet. A little goat, chad gadya. You know what I'm saying? A cow sustains you with mother's milk. These are all very nice animals. Even the kosher birds. They are examples of what the creation can and will be like in the end of days when we have a Mashiach. And we have to keep renewing, and that's what Rosh Chodesh is all about. And that's why Klal Yisrael's first mitzvah is, no matter how far you've fallen, like in the Nesias Mitzrayim, all the way down to the 49th level of Tumah, don't worry, because you can re-achieve your destiny of holiness. No matter how far you've come, you can reboot. There's never such a thing as something that's irredeemable. There's no such thing as irredeemable. As Rabbi Nachman would say, Ein Yush Ba'olam Klal. So let's understand. If the point of Rosh Chodesh and the purpose of the Jewish people is to model a holy world, right? No, we have to have Simone Kashrus too. So what are our Simone Kashrus? As I said before, Rachmanim, Baishanim, Gomle Chasadim. Okay, but in Elul we get more information, so hold on to that. What does it say about Elul? My wife gives a beautiful shir about Elul. And she talks about, I'll quote her here, about the 4 Roshei Tevos of Elul. Everybody knows that Elul, the name of the month of the beginning of the 40 days, and as I will point out to you, the 40 days represent when Moshe Rabbeinu asked to start over again. You had Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, which literally destroyed the connection between Hashem and the Jewish people to such an extent that Hashem wanted to wash his hands of the Jewish people. And Moshe miraculously, and according to as Hashem willed him to do, really, said, no, the Jewish people can renew. Even after Chet HaEgel, there's still hope. And even after Achet HaMeraglim, of the spies of rejecting land of Israel, there's still hope, if not for them, for the next generation, because we have Schwartz Avos. There's one long unbroken chain of the Jewish people that's immortal, not just the individual Jew, but the nation of the Jews, which is completely immortal. So we have these 4 Eluls, the Chodesh, the Rosh Chodesh, the full month prior to Rosh Hashanah, which is the renewal of the year. You follow me? It's a time of complete renewal. That's the message. And what is that? What does it symbolize? Bais Chazal pointed out to us. Number 1, Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Okay. Aleph Ani, Lamed ledodi, Vav v'dodi li. That's Elul. What does that mean? That means we have a love relationship with God. It's not only about fear and saying, I'll get away with what I can get away with as long as Hashem doesn't kill me. Okay, that is a level of Yirat Shamayim. That's pretty good. But Hashem doesn't want us as slaves. That's the whole theme of the Yom Noraim. Im kibanim, im kavadim. I don't want you as my slaves doing the work begrudgingly with a grumble under your breath, like teenagers can be sometimes, right? I'll do it, but only because you're forcing me to. It doesn't mean I want to do it. Doesn't mean I will like doing it. Ketina chabarech v'beis sefer. As long as the Rebbe's got me here, I'm going to have to listen. But the minute the bell goes off, I'm out of here. That's one way. That's one way to be in the Beis Hashem. But we want more. Dodi, notice the connection to the word David. David is the symbol of a loving relationship with Hashem, where you talk to Hashem, where you plead with Hashem, with you argue with Hashem, and you ask Hashem for help. That's David HaMelech. Individual prayer. Number 1, Elul. Be like David. Anila David, but David Lee. What is David? Use your emotions in the service of Hashem. Talk to Hashem. Tell him what's going on. Plead with him with all your problems and celebrate with him all your salvations, whatever it might be, from health problems, Bani, Chaim, Mizoni, children's problems. Who doesn't have them? And especially now, here in the land of Israel, in the world in general, who doesn't have problems? Tell me who doesn't have problems. Tell me who's not worried about their children. Tell me who's not worried about their own mortal lives. Who's not worried about being hurt, damaged, raped, killed, hated, persecuted, all for just causes? We got David as a model of how to survive the dangers of life, whether they're mortal dangers or spiritual dangers, which are more than the mortal dangers. Second point of Rosh Tevis Elul is Ina Liyado. It's a pasuk regarding the ear miklat, somebody who taka murders inadvertently. Ad kedei kach. We say Megaglin schusay de zakai If a person does accidental murder, they didn't mean to, they were chopping wood, and the axe flew off on their way down, or according to Rabbi, on the way up. It depends how you learn. The axe handle flies off and kills. You didn't mean to. You were just trying to build some wood, but you were trying to chop a tree down. You weren't exactly doing something that was building. You weren't building. You were being malicious. You were destroying life on some level. Okay, so it got out of hand. And you killed somebody. You have to go to the Ir Miklat. Ina liyada v'samtali. If Hashem has put a place where you can go there and stay there. And learn from whom? Learn from the Levium who live there. Learn from the Kohanim who might be living there. Be part of families that are there. Rehabilitate. Someone is sold into slavery. It's a rehabilitation. It's not a punishment. We don't keep them in cells like animals, like Lahavdil, alligator, whatever, Alcatraz, and keep them there like behemoths. That's not the point. The point is to rehabilitate, but that's not an easy thing to do. So the concept of Ir Miklat is that if you've really done things that are seemingly unerasable, you took a life. No, don't think that way. We can learn our way out of the taiva, even of being a destructive person. You can learn how to be a less destructive person. And the most destructive things are not axes, but words. What do they say? Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never harm me. Really? Words are the gateway to harming, and it's much more harmful. Words are much worse than the actual sticks and stones, because once the words have been established, the sticks and stones are inevitable. If you say to the Jewish people that you are genocidal maniacs, then how much further are you away from taking away their lives? And I want to say, the first step of taking away somebody's life is to take away their livelihood. And what does the world want to do? I don't want to do business with Israel. I don't want to have ballets in Israel. I don't want Israel appearing at weapons conferences to show their wares, even though everybody wants to buy them. I want to boycott them. I want sanctions against Israel. Sanctions against Israel. Sanctions mean economic boycott. Boycott is the beginning of death. If you take away a person's parnasa, you're taking away their livelihood. You're murdering. It's an act of murder. If you want to they want to get away with a little bit of murder. Did you know that there were a couple of incidences this week that were so shocking that it should pause us? 150 Jewish children tried to go to an amusement park in France. Did you know this? All Jewish kids. They rented the place out so it should be completely Jewish, so no Muslims would call them genocide maniacs and attack them, and throw paint at them and insults at them and shout at them and beat them. And the owner or the manager of the water park wouldn't let them in. He said, "My principles don't allow. You are genocidal murderers. You children, 8-year-old children in France who have nothing to do with anything. You don't even know what the heck you're talking about. I can't, on principle, allow you into a theme park." Ad kidei kach? Yeah, ad kidei kach. And the guy got arrested, but I don't know if he really cares or if he thinks he's some kind of hero. No, really. Don't let a Jew into a theme park. Maybe that's not a bad thing, because who says we're supposed to be in France and who says we're supposed to be hanging out in their theme park? But still, it's painful. It's painful that we should be so lowly regarded. It wasn't the only event of that kind. Every concert now, every rock concert becomes a festival of hatred towards Israel. And the bands that call us genocidal are leading cheers. This is not a small thing. This didn't happen 5 years ago and 10 years ago. This is the result of Hashem's, how shall I say, divine will, that we should enter this zone of the Simchas Torah war on Shmini Atzeres, the Shoresh of Kedusha, the things that are even above Rosh Chodesh, like Shabbos, the essence of our very purity, have come under attack. But you could look at it the other way around. There's, as Lahavdil, Shakespeare said, "Thou doth protest too much." The fact that they're protesting so much gives away their true fears. Yes, the Jews do have a moral code. Yes, the Jews are God's people. Yes, the Jews have a message to the world if they'll behave like they're supposed to, not like us, and try to. I saw that there's a, I don't know, they had an interview with some congregational rabbi. It looked like, all the very left-wing rabbis are the most sweetest of the sweet. Did you ever see them? They all look like angels with very large yarmulkes, men or women. And they're the nicest, sweetest, most loving people. So we'll have Judaism without the state of Israel, because the state of Israel is not, it's not something that we can really, the people say it's bad, so we can't do that. We can't do Israel. We can't support Israel. We have to support the victims of Israel. And that's what's going to make us good rabbis and good clergy. And then we'll be loved by our fellow, Muslims, and we'll do programs with them, and we'll sing together, and we're going to have the most spiritual Yom Kippur as long as we cut Israel out of the equation. And as long as we get up on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah and urge people to make moral choices and to support the children of Gaza and make a collection for the children of Gaza and give $1 million from the UJA to help these murderous children. This is what's really going on. But it's understandable, because for these Jews, they don't have education, they don't have outreach, they don't have anything. So they go with what the non-Jewish world says is the proper values. The world has been indoctrinated that the hatred of Israel is the ultimate good value. It's absolutely absurd. It's the exact opposite of what's intended to be, right? Because we're supposed to be Or La'amim. Now, we could say, let's take inventory of Israel itself and the Jewish people. Yeah, if we were united in being an Or La'amim, in the sense that we promote God's will in Torah, we'd be doing things a lot differently. We wouldn't be bending over backwards to please the Europeans and please the left-wing billionaires that want a social humanistic world bereft of a Torah. No Torah. No Am Kadosh, no Har Sinai, no Makam Mikdash, no need for Rosh Chodesh. The Rosh Chodesh Karbanos, they're called Seirei Rosh Chadashim. Notice a Seir is an animal which is associated with Esav, murder, death, destruction. We have a Seir LaAzazel we sent out on Yom Kippur. It's kind of the Yetzer Hara among the kosher animals. Shiurim represents the Avodah Zarah in the language of Chazal. It's the kosher animal that's, got issues. But we use those animals, we take them, and we make them the vehicle by which we cleanse the very Beis HaMikdash. And any Jew who came in Tameh, they touched the Sheretz, they ate something Tameh, okay? They are Tameh, they are impure, ritually impure in any which way, which is a symbol of lack of immortality or mortality or death. These karbanos cleanse the whole Beis HaMikdash from any of those disruptions, and we start fresh, completely renew. Our slate is clean, which is the entire purpose of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Wipe the slate clean, and we have ways of doing it. Vidui, Tshuva, Tehillim. I was in Yerushalayim last night, and it was said that the pathways to the Kotel had never been, in public transportation, had never been so overwhelmed as last night. People, and remember, the Sephardim start early, not surprisingly. The Sephardim start early. They're so holy they get to eat kidneys on Pesach. They're so holy that they even don't. They're not worried about kidneys. They're holy way up here. They daven for 30 days and 30 nights before Rosh Hashanah. They're all there. They were all there last night to start Slichos. So the message of Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li, which is Tefillah V'Slichos, number one. Number two, Ina Liyodo V'Samti Lecha, Ir Miklat. You can even come from the most grievous crimes and learn. Ish L'Re'eu Matanas Levyonim, Tzedakah. That's another one from Megillah Esther, that Esther and Mordechai said the people should give Ish L'Re'ehu, Aleph Lamed, man to his friend, Umatanos with a vav, Le'evyonim Lamed is a reference to tzedakah. That's who we are. We give tzedakah. Umal Hashem es levavcha bes levav zarecha is another one from the Navi. Umal Hashem will circumcise es levavcha, aleph lamed, ve'es levav. Circumcise your heart. You have to have a heart. You have to have an uncircumcised heart. We are not people who are callous. We are not people who indiscriminately kill children. We are not people who don't have mercy. But having mercy on the cruel is having cruelty to the kind. And we know that. We also sing the David Hashem Ori V'Yishi. Hashem, Lidavid Hashem. Ori is also Lidodi. Lidavid is Lidodi. It's also Elul. Okay. So what is the mystery of Elul? That Moshe Rabbeinu made his way up to Har Sinai and said, I've got 40 days, a whole new world, a new beginning. The Arbaim Yom, Kodem Yetziras HaFlad, formation of a human being is 40 days. We say 40 days before the 40-day formation, already there's a destiny for that child of how they can positively impact the world. That's what we say. Arbaim Yom, Kodem Yetziras HaFlad, in Maseches Sota at the very beginning, we decide, Ish Ploni LaPloni. Everybody has a shidduch, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a contribution to be made towards this goal. But at the same time, 40 days is the formation of the actual human body. After 40 days, to do an abortion in Jewish law is very problematic. Before 40 days is less problematic. Unlike the Lahavdil, the Christian position, which is before the body's even formed, they say it's ki'ilu, it's fully formed. It's not true. Torah teaches otherwise. Although it's a famous machlokus between Rabbi and Marcus Aurelius about when sacred human life is in the Maseches Kedushin. He wanted to say from the moment of conception, and Rabbi said no, after 40 days. But Rabbi did say there's something to be said for what Marcus Aurelius said, and he brought a pasuk, a raya to him. There is what to say that Tov Achris Davar Marei Shiso, but Judaism doesn't look at anything until it's formed. He said, even look at the very first day. Okay, fine. But Lamaisa, let's see what we have. Let's see what we have in this 40-day period. Rebbe emphasized the 40-day period. We got to know what we're going to do with it. We have this divine potential from day one, argued Marcus Aurelius. Correctly, yes. But once you reach 40 days, you're already in a person. You're already in this world as an entity, even if you're inside the mother's womb to a certain extent, and it becomes an isser of abortion, although it's not misas bez, it's not considered murder, but it's considered an isser, retzicha. So in summary, we're entering a 40-day period which is completely begin again anew. Cast aside the problems of the last 2 years. Understand that we have been trafed up by the murderous acts of our tormentors. We have suffered greatly, and our greatest suffering is the continuous damage we do against each other, which is lashon hara, division, failure to have achdus, failure to have a Jewish purpose. And in the lack of a Jewish purpose, we adopt foreign purposes that are literally for us avodah zarah, and can lead to the most disastrous consequences, which we see. The rampant assimilation, the rampant disassociation, and even hatred of the very state of Israel. You know that the Rambam defines a Jew as far as every Jew has a chelik in the world to come. And isn't that what this 40-day period is about? To define our place and take our place in as Jews who have a stake in the world to come. And every Jew who's in the land of Israel, by the way, has shown a greatness that they deserve a place in the world to come. That's already concretized to some extent, because a place in Israel is a place in the world to come. Did you know that? You know, every Jew has a potential place in Olam Haba and has a place that's given them to be lost. They can lose it. But once you're in the land of Israel, it's already like the Rebbe said after the 40-day formation, you've already gotten a place. You have a house in Israel. You have an apartment that you live in Israel, or whatever it might be. You have children living in Israel. You already have concretized a portion of the world to come. Feel good about yourself. And the world is not going to let us accomplish this holy goal that easily. But they will. In the end, if we stay true, if we renew. Okay, and we take the shofar, the symbol of the holy animals, the that even our animal selves, like the shofar, have what to contribute, the essence of us, the tochias of us, not our intellect, not our mind, not our imagination, but just our very horns, our very inner voices, the nefesh from inside of us has holy potential. I'll close with a story. Incredible story. So the Baal Shem Tov gathered his followers on Shabbos Mevorchim Elul, which was yesterday, right? Last Shabbos, this past 2 days. And he taught them how to daven in the spirit of Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. He was like a Davidic Sion. He was a descendant of David HaMelech, and he was a great renowned for his prayer, which is one of the great teachings of Hasidus, has surrounds around their ability and their intensity of prayer. Okay, the creativity of prayer. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who insisted on personalized prayer, ultimate creativity in prayer, individual prayer. He'd both do. And he started to say to people, I'm going to help you repair your tefillah. Repeat after me. Baruch. And the congregation would say, Baruch. Ata. Conversation with Ata. Now, this meant you daven for about 18 hours from Esrei, okay? So, Shachris, they were in a different space. They didn't care what time it was. They didn't care about anything. They were just repeating word after word as the Baal Shem Tov's tefillos literally cleaned up their neshamas. But the Baal Shem Tov got stuck on a pasuk in Shachris. He said, Sheker hasus l'tshuva. The sus will not redeem you. Sus. The sus represents the human power and taiva and assertiveness. Sus paro. Sheker hasus l'tshuva. It's not about your desires. It's not about your ego. It's not about your Putinian desire to dominate the world for no logical reason, just because you want to. And he kept repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And one congregant named Avram said, I cannot take it anymore. And he ran out of shul and he finished davening at home. He says, I can't. Is it, how many times can Rabbi repeat Shek Resus L'Shua? That's the 113th time. I'm out of here. And then after the davening, Baal Shem Tov asked him, why did you leave? Why did you run away? He says, Rabbi, to be honest, one time is a lot, but 113 times is a little bit much, So Rabbi said to him, you don't understand what happened. Tomorrow you'll understand what happened. And the next morning a Jew comes and says, I have to report a miracle. This comes Sunday morning. He says, what was the miracle? He says, I was stuck in the forest, Erev Shabbos, I got lost, and I was there in the dark Friday night. It was already Shabbos. I had tied up my wagon in the shed, and there's nothing I could do. I couldn't get here. And worse comes to worse. I knew that in this forest is a notorious robber, Ivan the Terrible, funny name that they chose. He's the ultimate Russian leader. And he said, I knew if he finds me or catches wind of me, I'm dead. He'll take the clothing off my body. He'll take everything that I have and leave me dead. And I didn't know what to do. But suddenly, as Ivan's horse approached, I hid, but I could see the horse was wandering around confused and ended up running off in different directions until it abandoned chasing me. Says the Baal Shem Tov to his student Avram, he says, you see, when I was saying Sheker Hasus L'Tshua, Ivan was trying to track down our good friend here. That was on Shabbos morning. And you didn't realize what was going on. But every time I said Sheker Hasus L'Tshua, Ivan's horse went in a different direction. And now our good friend made it alive. And you didn't understand what I was doing. I was trying. Our tefillos were preventing us from reaching a mortifying, dangerous end, was saving us from that. Our tefillos were saving us from that. Our tefillos do work. They do save. The ending of the story is even more fascinating. This chassid had a son who could not read. He had severe learning disabilities or whatever it was, could not read a word. And he begged the Baal Shem Tov for a bracha that his son should be able to daven. He said, bring him on Yom Kippur. So he came on Yom Kippur. That was like 40 days later. In other words, after the 40 days that we're talking about here, 40 days later, the son comes to shul with his father, Kol Nidre, everybody's singing. They say Amen. He says Amen. That's all he could do. He couldn't read a word. But then he was so overwhelmed with a desire to pray to Hashem with all his heart. He took out his shepherd's flute and he started blowing notes. And it was this beautiful tune. But everybody in shul was mortified. How dare someone desecrate the holy day of Yom Kippur by blowing a flute. We know that it's not a prohibition from the Torah, but rabbinically, until the time the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed, will be rebuilt from being destroyed, then we'll have weapons. Az Yamalei Schoik Pinu L'Shonenu Rino. We'll have return of the instrumentation of the holy Levium when the Beis Hamikdash is around. But while we're in Golus and destruction, there's no music on Shabbos. They didn't allow it, only in the Beis Hamikdash. So what did this kid do? He violated the rabbinic ordinance against playing music. How ghastly, how horrifying. They were all with their mouths open, and the Baal Shem Tov turned to him and said, boy, are you lucky that he did that. What do you mean? He said, your tefillos had kitrugim on them. There were complaints about you, about us collectively, that weren't going to let our prayers through. They were being blocked by heavenly accusers. And we were doomed until this young boy blew, and it so rattled the accusers that Hashem was so interested in hearing the sincere song of this young man that all the gates were thrown open by divine command, and our tefillos reached the heavens and were accepted. You owe him a debt of gratitude. How can you understand this? What was the Baal Shem Tov saying? Had the boy come to the Baal Shem Tov and say, can I blow my horn? He would have said, no, it's usher, right? Right? It's Yantif, you can't. But he did it anyway. And the Baal Shem Tov says, sometimes you have to realize that pure passion for Hashem sometimes will look over the negatives. That's Hashem's choice, not our choice. Hashem, sometimes it saves lives. Sometimes you got to call Hatzalah to save a human life. And the Hatzalah drivers have to get out of shul and get on their radios and horns and get in an ambulance and save life. That's what this kid was. He was the Hatzalah of all of you. Hatzalah can drive on Shabbos. Hatzalah can toot their horns on Shabbos because he's saving our lives. This is what will save our lives. In any case, the period has begun. I'm trying to talk myself into it, that we're going to have that pinnacle of tefillah. We're going to start fresh. We're going to put aside the sufferings that we have all experienced, Klal Yisrael, the lost neshamos, the murdered soldiers, the starving chatufim, the fighting within Klal Yisrael, the hatred of the nations. Bitter of Yigal. It's been a bitter, bitter, bitter year to swallow. But at the same time, we have an understanding that what's on the other side of that is a tremendous leap that the forces of Kitrug, like Baal Shem Tov Shula, are trying to suppress. Those tefillos are ready to go. We just need that little shepherd boy to blow the whistle. And if it is the suffering that we're going through that blows the whistle for us for this year, so be it. We should have a heartfelt Elul, get to work on Dodi Li, open our mouths, open our hearts, open our learning, open our minds, but most importantly to each other. And remember, we're Kayanim v'Goy Gadosh. From our bodies to the animals that we eat, we are here to show Kedusha and Kesher to Hashem. And let's do it. Have a great week.
It's